worked with and played with DX now for, I'm going to age myself, I probably shouldn't tell you, 20 plus some years, and still using it, still going strong. And there's a lot of things that we found and did. And so AI is kind of the new field, and there's a lot of things that we need to identify in there. So this is kind of where this came from. A lot of what I'm going to discuss today is discussions that I started having with Rob about 9 months ago, with things where the HCL documentation, you can see blurb somewhere where it says, hey, it works, you can do this, but when you try, you can find the documentation. And so working with Rob, this is kind of where some of this comes from. Rob, over to you.
Hi, my name is Rob Holt. I'm a customer success engineer, and I do a lot of solution architecting. And through conversations with Leon, I have this desire to build a demo that can be useful, and want to show that to you guys today. And with the advent of AI and its pervasive, aggressive integration into AI into enterprises, I think this is going to be a good topic to understand a way in which you can utilize the HCL DX platform that you may already own to integrate AI into a business process that you're likely to already have as well. So hopefully you'll find this presentation interesting.
And so how we want to proceed today is I'm going to start off the session with talking with some of the things that we've been looking at Avnet. I'm going to tell you that from my side, anything that we are showing here today, the way that I'm showing it is not tied to Avnet, so there's no Avnet private information in here. The only thing about Avnet is that Avnet as a company allows me free time to explore and find the best stuff to implement at them. And this is the things that I found in there. And so I'm going to talk about things that HCL says is out of the box and how I implemented the requirements that I found to implement it, work with it. And then I'm going to end, I'm probably not going to talk on the slide that you see today where I say extend functionality of DX. I'm going to let Rob take over from there and run. I'm going to cover up to extend the functionality of DAM using plugging extensions, with some extensions that we've built using AI, very specifically using AI to extend the capabilities of DX. And I'm going to plug, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of DX's.org, but or DX's.org. It's once I'm done here, the plugins, I have anonymized all of the plugins, so it's not tied to Avnet, and I will release the code and everything there. So if you guys want to play with it, use it. It's up for you to grab. And so with that, as I said, when you look at DX, it comes up and it tells you that, look at the documentation, it tells you that sentiment analysis, keyword analysis, and summary generation is out of the box. And yes, it is, but there's always a caveat. It only supports OpenAI. It allows you to go and write your own custom. So if you don't want to use OpenAI for whatever reason, you can go and select any large language model, any provider, and write your own code and embed that. So HCL allows you to actually write your own custom stuff. Out of the box, what works within DX is OpenAI. Now, if your company is anything like our company, the first thing that you hear when you hear OpenAI and signing up for OpenAI is literally security alarm bells, because nobody wants to use the public version of OpenAI, because that means that your private or company private data becomes a part of the OpenAI environment that it could use. And so from Avnet side, yes, we can use OpenAI if it's within a secure environment. If you're using it from as a subscription account under Microsoft Azure or the Amazon version. I know Google doesn't do that, but Amazon subscribes for OpenAI. And so understanding that, I spent about 4 months working on writing this OpenAI plugin for us, because HCL DX and the way it was implemented, you had to go to OpenAI and subscribe to OpenAI to actually use ChatGPT to get the plugin. And then I was about a week or two away from having it done when in CF234, HCL had listened to me, and they had actually opened it up where now you can go and define your OpenAI host. And so now you can point it to, if you run OpenAI internally, or if you subscribe to it via Azure or anything like that. So all the work that I've done for about 3 months have just gone down the drain. But I actually prefer it this way because I think it's a much simpler setup. So you don't have to customize your own implementation. You can just use what's out of the box, but you have to be on CF234. So when you do that, there's a couple of things that you need to understand. So I still use this kind of authoring environment. Now you can do it on this side, or you can do it on the new modern implementation that HCL has implemented. But if you actually have OpenAI configured within your environment, you first have to click on Show Hidden Fields, and then if you click on More, you can see the AI generate summary and AI generate keywords. And so when you click the summary, it will actually fill in this field here. If you click Generate Keywords, you go to Properties, and you would actually see the keywords in Properties. The other thing is, when you look at sentiment analysis, if you have that configured to work, you'll notice that in any text box, so it's going to only be text boxes itself, so enhanced text, smart text, any of those boxes, you will see this light bulb at the bottom of the bottom right-hand corner. And then from there, if you click on it, it will actually give you a score rating of what the sentiment is from the text component that you have. And so you can actually get a score on, is this really good, really bad? What we found with Avnet, though, is we are a highly technical company, and we had to go and do a little bit of tweaking on the language models that we use to do the sentiment analysis. It sometimes came back and told us that it was too negative because it was too technical for people to understand. And so to get the value out of it, you'll have to do a little bit of tweaking. And if there's questions around it, we can definitely talk about that. So being international, we have to do some amount of translation. And out of the DX, you can actually do the translation utilizing OpenAI. Again, you have to, it's out of the box setup for OpenAI. You can use any other thing if you write your own custom environments. But to get to that, again, you have to go in and show hidden fields, and now you'll see that there is the AI translate. Now, the interesting thing that I found, it took me a while to figure this out, because initially it wasn't documented, and then suddenly it appeared in the documents somewhere along the line after I went back and forth. So if you know how to set up multilingual support MLS in DX, you would go ahead and set up your multilingual support. You would set up your libraries to support the different languages that you want to. So I create, in our case, let's say I have an English library, and I have in this case, a German library. I can go ahead and create my article in the English side. I take that article and I copy it over to the German language, I then go to the German language side, and I'm in the German language side, and I go and say AI translate, and it will translate it into the language of that library. And so then you save it. So you can see that it's actually saved it in German. It's documented now. Initially, that part was not documented, and so it's a lot better from that perspective. The last thing out of the box that I want to point to is that if you go to DX, it supports, and this is probably the oldest function, AI function that's supported out of the box, is image analysis if you use DAM. So if you use DAM, once you've uploaded it, you can go ahead and tell it to look at the image and then do generate keywords that's associated with that image. And it's actually utilizing the Google Vision API. So you're no longer tied to OpenAI, but you do have to subscribe and sign in for the Google Vision API to get this to work. And it actually works fairly nicely. Now, there's a couple of things that I have found that I've played around with where I can make some changes, not just on the image and generating keywords, but I can also generate different views, and utilizing AI, I can, with a plugin, go and change the colors that's actually on it and things like that. So there's quite a bit that you can do once you understand what's going in there. But this is the out-of-the-box function allows you to do this. Now you'll notice that there's a generator in the details. Unfortunately, I didn't grab a screenshot of the details page, but if you look at details, you click on that, and it will take the keywords that was generated by Google Vision, and it will give you a score level of how certain it is it fits within your environment. And so you can go and look and say, okay, graphic design is 100% fit, but website is only a 15% fit. And so you can go and delete the ones that's low on your rating scale. And then in this case, you can also go ahead and add in your own keywords if you want to. So you don't just have to live with that. Now, there's a caveat again. If I go and update this image, I go to version 2 and my image changes on this image. The keywords are not going to go away. You need to go and edit the keywords and run a regenerate on the new image that you have. So I wanted to get to this very quickly. From utilizing AI, and in this case, I've used Claude and ChatGPT to do some things, but we tend to use a lot of the Adobe toolkits, Adobe tools for image manipulation. And so we had a bit of a need we didn't want somebody to go and work in Adobe, save it to their screen, then have to go to DAM and upload it into DAM and do all of that work. And so I created a plugin that connects any of the Adobe tools directly with the DAM. And so I can go through, search for it, and you can actually see on this case where I've selected the plugin, I've got the plugin, it's connected, and then I can go and select exactly which collection in the DAM I want to save that image to, and how I want to save it. And you go ahead and save it, and it writes it straight to the DAM. And if there's any keywords that you've associated with that image in the image itself, it will take that and actually write that into the keyword section of the DAM. And then we use Brightcove a lot for all of our videos that we host, and we really wanted to integrate that. So out of the box, actually, HCL supplies a plugin for Kaltera, but we use Brightcove, and there's a lot of reasons why we use Brightcove instead of Kaltera. And so we had this need to actually show all of our videos that's in Brightcove in our DAM environment. And I utilize, again, Claude and ChatGPT to build this plugin that allows me to actually, while I'm in the DAM, I can upload a video. And when I upload that video, it actually creates metadata for that video in the DAM, but it literally writes it to Brightcove. And so it doesn't store anything in the DAM, it stores it in Brightcove, but it keeps the metadata and everything that you have in the DAM. And then the first time that you actually run that, if any videos that you actually have in Brightcove, it goes and reads all of those videos. So if you have a ton of videos, don't make a mistake that I did. It went and read all the metadata and update the DAM, and it ran for something like 6 or 7 hours and populated all of that information. And I said, so these two, I'll release the code to dxs.org, and you can get it from there if you're interested. And Rob, that's over to you.
Great. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. Do you guys see the presentation?
Yeah,
see
trees. You see what now?
I'm lost in the forest. Yes.
Now we see it.
You see that? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to talk about is enterprise AI content curation. So enterprises have been slow to adopt AI content curation because generic LLMs produce generic, now there's a term for it, AI slop. And that's not going to work for enterprises because the enterprise has a voice, a brand, and they have legal requirements for things that they publish. So what I'm suggesting here is what I would consider grounded, governed, and shipped. So grounded ultimately means that you know where your data is coming from. It's not necessarily some AI pie in the sky data source. Governed, it means that you have governance, you're viewing it. AI is not in control. It's not going to automatically do anything. And then after those two things are done, you have a verification mechanism, and then you can publish or ship the content. So when we look at what AI is doing right now, right, it is trying to allow people to move faster, right? And that's one part of what enterprises typically require. They always are looking to move faster. They want to stay on brand, and you want to stay defensible. So moving faster, content generation, there's a boatload of generation, right? But the more you generate, the more opportunity you have for drift. So your brand is no longer your brand. It's something AI has now muddled up. And then, where is this content coming from? You have no idea. You don't want to post anything that you can get sued behind. So moving faster is not necessarily great because there's a little saying that speed without control is a faster disaster. Okay, so you want to make sure that you are going to move fast, but stay within the guardrails and guidelines of the brand, and that whatever is generated is sensible, it makes sense, and you can defend why it's there when you publish it. Okay. Now, the typical AI workflow in an enterprise is terrible at best, right? Many enterprises don't allow direct integration with AI, or actually the tooling doesn't allow direct integration with AI. So a lot of times what people will do is they'll use a bolted on solution, which means you've got, say, your content curation process, and then you want to put in generative AI output. So you'll go to Claude, ChatGPT, use their chatbot, put something in there, tell it how to do something. right? There's no consistency between you and somebody else telling you how to generate something, and you'll take and copy that and put that in your CMS and hope for the best, right? Then it gets routed through your normal workflow process into legal or somebody who needs to approve it, and they reject it because it doesn't stay on brand, or there's all kinds of other problems. So now what I'm suggesting here is that we use HCL DX because one, HCL DX already knows and has the infrastructure to know who is reviewing the content, who should have access to the content, what stage the content is in, you know, whether it's published, what's published, when it should get published, and then of course, permission security is crucial, right? So you don't want people changing things, and you also want it to be auditable. All of these things are already built into HCL DX. So the key here is using your existing workflows, because ultimately a workflow is when you move from one stage to another, and these stages are really kind of nodes. So you're basically substituting in what I would consider a digital employee and AI agent in each of these nodes. These are typically going to be tasks that humans would do. So research, somebody goes out, finds the information, collects the information, and then, if you've ever done a research paper, you're going to draw up an outline or a map or a guide how you're going to create the piece of content report, in this case, a blog. I'm going to do a demo on a blog. Then you're going to write it up, and then you're going to edit it. You're going to review it, ensure that it's delivering the message that you want. Okay, so what's key to enterprises is that the model, the generic LLM, it doesn't know your business. Your data does. Your data is what you collect, what you generate, how you operate. All of that is contained in the data. You have expert information that's documented in Word docs and wiki pages. It exists in Salesforce and any of these backend systems, knowledge bases, support databases. To be able to get that information is very difficult in many enterprises because of the siloed nature of the way enterprises work, especially for a human being to go through and, learn all these different interfaces to gain access to the data, right? So what I've done in the demo is I used a real data source. In fact, it was Avnet's data source called Element 14. And I was able to access that. They have a set of APIs, and I have an agent, not in this demo, you're going to see that. I can see that in this demo, but this agent goes out, analyzes the data in their Element 14 blog and wiki page, and it chops up the data, puts it in a RAG database so that AI can access it effectively. Okay. The other thing that is great about using AI in the content curation process is that you can use it to perform validations as well in terms of the legality, the brand, the voices, and all of that. And then it's going to try to do its best. The thing about that is it's not going to always succeed. And that's why you still have the human in the loop. We'll get to that in a little bit. But as humans provide feedback and correcting what was generated, you can also analyze the delta and the difference between what the AI generated and what the human expects, and then further tweak the way the AI will do generation. So as you go through the loop, it'll get better. So humans need to add value at the appropriate place. Everybody who works for an enterprise, I shouldn't say everybody, but I'm willing to bet 99+% of people do things on a daily basis that they provide to the enterprise that they view as very little value, and that they wish some machine would do it. Some people may say their whole job, but we have to be realistic here. The things that AI doesn't do well, it doesn't have any level of empathy. It doesn't have the ability to really directly feel and interpret things the way humans do. It's a master at grabbing information, transforming the information, and all of that. So why not let AI do that? That task can be done by a human, but the pace is very slow. So what we want to do is enable AI to do the things that take time so we can speed up the process. And then we want to allow the humans to be in that process to ensure that the AI is generating something that is going to be on brand and on target and satisfies the needs or the task of whatever document is being curated. Okay. And ultimately, the humans need to determine when we're done. When is good enough good enough? Okay.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
I think you and I, when we discussed this point and going backwards and forwards, we basically came to the conclusion that AI has the ability to hallucinate much better than any human can when it comes to documentation.
Yes. So that's also a big problem because you don't want to make up stuff. Imagine if we made up things and told somebody lies, right? You lose trust instantly. So you don't want AI to do that, and you don't want to be caught in a lie. So the value story, again, we want speed. If you look at creation of documents and things of that nature, it could take weeks for people to generate something that is publishable in an enterprise, right? We want quality. People take time to read things, right? Machines can read things and critique things based on, guidance that you give it, right? So you can get a critique much faster that provides input into maybe your final decision. It may discover things that you didn't think about as well, right? Governance. This is why HCL DX platform is key, because we have versioning, we have the ability to audit, and then also built into this system that I'm showing you is the ability to validate the data where it came from. And because you can put all these things together, you develop a level of scale that you didn't have previously. So you can effectively get 3 to 5 times more throughput, maybe even more as you optimize the agentic workflow. All right. So again, HCL, we're going to reiterate, this is the right platform. It's got a built-in workflow engine. And what that means is that you got a series of agents that are performing tasks, and the workflow is really the orchestration mechanism between the various stages, right? And it has the ability to allow a human to get in there and do something, make decisions. And then the AI agents can also make some decisions themselves, but ultimately the final decision and the control needs to be kept with a human. All right, so we have these things called custom workflow actions. A lot of people don't know about these, but these things are what we call extension points into workflow processes. You could actually effectively call this an AI extension point, right? It's built into the system. It was intended, it's been there for years, right? People aren't necessarily using them, but it's a way to extend the workflow to do what you want to do. And what I'm actually using is a custom workflow action that implements a webhook, which is basically a node that says, when I get to this point, I need to call an external process. In this case, you'll see these different agents get called at different stages of the workflow. And when I get to the demo, there's integration with the DAM. We have a rich set of APIs, so you can pretty much do anything. So now my agents can talk to DX very similar to the way I would talk to DX by logging in, clicking a button, doing some things, except AI can do it much faster because it can use AI, it can talk computer language between the agent and the system. We also have governance in terms of access control. So the AI can inherit the permissions of the user, the human, so that you don't get the AI going out of control, doing whatever it wants to do, whenever it wants to do it. You stay within the bounds of the security mechanism that DX provides you. We also have the ability to render the content. So it's all a one-stop shop. You generate content, talk to your agents. They help generate the content, and then ultimately you put it all together and you can render something. In this case, the demo, you're going to see a blog. And then again, we've got versioning. All right, so now we're going to go to the demo. And what I'm going to do is tell a little story. So in this scenario, we've got an enterprise that has a rival that is now releasing a new product line. And, we are, this enterprise is, of course, always in competition, each trying to one up each other. Now they're at a point where the competitor is doing something needs to be done now. And normally it can take up to 3 weeks to produce some type of output to guide and direct purchasers for different product lines. But we need to do it faster. The thing is, we've got all the information in this enterprise. There's a community support site, which I'm actually using in this demo. And then there's internal CMS articles and knowledge bases. All of these things have what's necessary to create the blog. The problem is the human resource to gather that information, organize it, and generate a draft, review it, get it to legal and all that stuff. Right? So it's not a blog yet. So we've got some characters. Monet, that's the human. This is the person that's got the assignment. Now, Monet is the person that is going to go to the HCLDX platform, create a brief. This is a high-level, abstract command or requirement for the blog, okay? So she's technically savvy, so she's able to tell in this brief what should be created, okay? She's not going to do any of the traditional hard work like research and all that, go to these different systems and gather the content and write an outline and all that. She's going to delegate that to the digital agents. So we've got this agent called Scout. This is the researcher. Scout goes out, pulls facts, stats, and quotes, and everything that's pretty much already vetted from in-house data repositories. And then also is able to track where he got the information from, so that if there's any question, legal says, where'd you get this line from? It comes from this particular repo right here. So now you don't spend time trying to justify why something was built. And that's what a lot of companies are doing now. They implement AI, it goes to legal, and legal says, well, prove to me that these words are real. And now instead of doing the research, you use AI to do research. You have no idea where the AI is pulling stuff from. And now you're spending time justifying to legal where the stuff comes from. So there's nothing saved. So this system allows that to happen organically. Atlas is the outliner and the map builder. So anytime you want to build something in terms of documentation, you need to really have an organizational structure. There needs to be some level of information architecture. You want to have this consistent across the content you're going to create. So in a blog, you want ultimately your blogs to have the same voice. You want them to read kind of in the same way so that the user has a pattern which they expect to experience and be able to either quickly go to what they need based on the pattern that you've defined and get what they want, so that there's consistency, okay? So again, there's going to be things that each of these agents do and things that they should not do. And just to be clear here, it's not the same agent, very different agents, right? They are each their own instance. And the value of that is, if you look at LLMs and how much they're charging, you can use different models for different levels of work. So you can use a cheaper model for, say for instance, Scout, like just reading data, trying to say, okay, is this going to be good or not to put into the blog? That's very cheap. Whereas you come to the writer, you may want to use a little bit more advanced LLM or model in the back end, because now you're writing something. You may want to have additional guidance that may not be inherently available in a lower or lesser cost model. Okay, so Verse is the writer and image creator. So this is the thing that's going to take what the other agents have generated and combine that and generate a blog. Okay, and then we have Edie. This is the editor and reviewer. So this is the kind of closing the loop to see what the other agents have done. Does it stay within the brand guidelines? Are the statements that are made in the blog, are they traceable? Is there a reputational risk? Are there words that are being used that should not be used when talking to the public, right? Are there words that should be used? Ensuring that we stay within a voice that has been defined as part of the brand for the enterprise. Okay. The editor doesn't rewrite or anything. It just critiques what's going on, and it provides that critique back to the human. And then the human can take that as additional information or even override it and say, well, you're wrong, right? And move forward. So now what we do is we want to start this process, and it's called the human control loop. So it starts at the top, and it goes down to Scout as a researcher. You see Atlas, Verse, and Edie. And it comes back to Monet in this case. And Monet makes a decision. If it's not good, you iterate again until it's right. And then once it's right, then you approve, the human approves, and then publishes content. So now we're going to move to a live demo. And I have got to turn off my Cato. Hopefully everything works. Okay. So this is an interface. It's running kind of local app. It's actually connecting to the server, but when you demonstrate AI, it's kind of difficult to see what's going on. So what I did was created a little interface that will allow us to step through the process one stage at a time. So I'm going to create a new topic. Here's the title: How to Choose the Right Pressure Sensor for Your IoT Project. And then we're going to put the brief here.
Hey, Rob, can you zoom in and all with this just to make it larger?
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be great.
Okay, so now in WCM, what you're going to do is you're going to create a content item. And that content item is the brief. And if we were in WCM, this would just automatically run. But now I've got a draft. That's the brief that's going to be fed into Scout, the topic researcher, and it's going to run out and go into the RAG database that was generated using content from Element 14, which is a bunch of experts having conversations about electronic components. So it generates these research notes, and then it also creates a trail of auditability. So now each of these lines, you know where it maps back to the source. So now legal has a way to say, okay, where did you get this from? Is it truly something that exists from our enterprise or something made up? You now have auditability. So now we go to Atlas. It's going to outline the way the blog should be written. And these are, simple. I constructed these agents to do something very simple, so the speed is kind of fast. But again, you can customize how the agents work. So it generates an outline, very similar to what a human would do, maybe a little bit more technical in nature. All right, and then now we go to Verse, which is going to generate the actual blog. And then based on the blog, it's going to analyze the output of the blog to generate an image. In this case, it's just going to be like a simple, non-complex image or set of images that the user can choose from. And that takes a little longer because we're calling it a different model. And while that's working, I'm just going to go over some of the things here. So this is my RAG database. This is all the data chunked up so that you can find, or the AI can find relatively easily, the various pieces of information for the topic. We actually have what we call the blog publishing workflow. And this is the thing that I'm walking through now. And you can see that there's multiple stages. There's the draft stage, which I just showed, the research stage. And then you can see inside the research stage, we're calling a custom workflow action called topic researches. And this is a webhook. Same thing with the outline and the right and all that. So you can get the picture here. Okay. Let's see if this is done. Okay. So this is done. And what we've done, what the actual AI agents have done is create a collection of images to choose from, puts them in the DAM. And now we've got the blog reviewer. And the blog reviewer is going to basically rate based on the enterprise governance that's built into the agent, whether or not you need revision. It does. It says it really feels that this is bad, right? It needs revision. And it gives you things that need to be fixed, suggested improvements. And then, of course, you've got SEO and other aspects around metadata that could be used to make the article better. But we're not going to go through that process again. We're going to do the view, the blog. So now the AI generates the blog. And this is what it looks like, right? It generated this. Okay. And I can publish this. I can actually choose a different image if I want for the banner. And I can improve and publish. And of course, what happens is that this piece of content is stored in WCM. My server's slow today. And I can preview it in WCM.
So Rob, while we wait, how long do you think it took you from start to finish to do this?
Okay. Good question. So it took me probably, I'm going to say about 2 weeks from start to finish, meaning starting to write the agents. And I started from a very basic set of agents that do things like create pages, create layout, put portlets on pages. So I can now go to my Claude desktop and I can give it instructions and it will go out and do things in DX. Okay. So then I advanced through creating pages to workflow agents that created workflow stages and custom workflow actions and all of that, right? Now there's a lot more that I can do in terms of generating these agents, but it didn't take long because I used Claude to build the skills that are necessary to make these agents do what they need to do. And in fact, for the whole demo, I didn't write any code. Well, I won't lie. I wrote the webhook code years ago before there was, true like AI that we have today. So it wasn't really vibe coded. I updated it a little bit using kind of vibe coding or AI assisted programming. But all of this was done using the Claude code command line and that interface. So it's kind of where we are now. Let me go back to the presentation and conclude the presenter view. So what you saw was, the human control loop, with human control loop, Scout, Atlas, Verse, and Edie, and all Monet. And what you just watched was HCL Save Monet, okay? Which is really truly to say this system using HCL DX will save you money and you can move faster and get more throughput. Now, today what we showed was blog publishing. Next, you may have other content curation needs. And then ultimately, you also have additional channels, which, we can address that as well. So the thing is, the agents work within your company's principle. And this is the thing that you want to generate these agents. You want to tie them together, have an orchestration process. HCL DX platform allows you to do that. And then what we're offering here is, how do you get started? Okay. We are working on trying to make these assets that we use in these demos available as a basis for which you can build and extend on your own. These would be provided, say, on an unsupported basis. But we also have a workshop that we'll offer. You guys that will come out, talk to you about your environment specifically, and then also show you how this was done in a sandbox environment. And what is, I think, more appropriate is how does it really work for you? We offer a pilot. Our services experts come in, understand how things work in your business, tie that into workflow actions that you either have or we can suggest that will work well to automate many of the processes that you are using today. All right, thank you. Do we have any questions?
All right. So the way we'll do questions is if you raise your hand, I will unmute you and you can ask questions directly. Otherwise, put them in the chat. I understand this process and it's great, right? I have a question on, there's a lot of times that you have content that is kind of reused, kind of, and always being updated. Is there ways to make those type of content that is like an iteration of the past content? Any thoughts on how that would be working?
Yeah. So, Dan, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not. Okay. Yeah. So the process I just showed is exactly that, right? It's just that in the demo, Monet started off with a blank content item. She submitted a brief to generate the blog, but you can take the existing blog, and because there's human in the loop at each one of these stages, you can actually start the process again, feed it guidance, and say, well, we've got a new product, it's got this new capability of whatever, and it will then move forward with that new information and regen everything. So you always have control, right? And you can put in that control at any stage of the process. So if you have, for instance, Scout go out, pull in data, and you've got something sitting on your desktop that's not readily available, you copy and paste that into the human input section or context for the content. And then the outliner would then use both the human input as well as the AI generated input or what's been collected. So yes, the process kind of remains the same, right? It's really the same type of thing you would do if there were no AI agents involved.
So, Rob, just part of what we've discussed in the past, but if you look at the process that you laid out there, I want to point out that for your agents that you have written, the way that those agents are set up is that they, from a company perspective, we have security and we can save money because you can take the LLMs and the agentic function and actually run that in-house on your own platform, and you don't have to pay other people tokens to do that. You basically manage yourself, and so you can have a guardrail around that, and you can make it a lot cheaper than spending money for ChatGPT or any of those.
Right. And the other aspect that you get if you did that was you get data sovereignty. It never leaves your data center. The data never goes across the wire anywhere outside of your data center.
And especially, I mean, for us, Avnet being worldwide, I'm going to be facetious and say, yeah, in the US they don't care, but in Europe they definitely do. And so managing and controlling your data and maintaining some of the data that's in there becomes very important. And so just the problem with AI is it's so easy to using your faster disaster. It's so easy to really mess up and publish your data outside without you even knowing. But in this environment, this framework that you highlighted you can actually control and keep that secure, and you can have the money available for yourself.
Right, exactly. And then the thing about it, we didn't get into the architecture, but the agents are actually living in my DX Kubernetes cluster. You could also run an LLM side by side in that same cluster. So technically, the data as being, you bring the data in, it sits wherever it is. The AI agents never really move that data beyond the cluster. You could also implement it that way as well.
And tying it back to our requirements from Avnet side is we're highly technical, and general LLMs can sort of understand some of it, but not always. And so having the ability to actually run it internally and develop our own LLM and knowledge and information about our product set is actually huge. And having it available for us to use and not necessarily sharing it with competitors is also really big. And it's kind of an advantage that we can then take that data and offer it to our suppliers and customers.
Right.
So, all right, I think we are set for today. I appreciate everybody coming today, and we will see you the next time. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.